sonicstate.com.
Hi and welcome back to the top 20 greatest synths of all time ever. Before we go to number 1, let's have the countdown from 20 to 2. At 20, it's the ARP Selena. At 19, the Roland SH101. At 18, the VCS3. At number 17, the Nord Lead. At 16, it's the EMU Proteus. At 15, the Roland Jupiter 8. At number 14, the Yamaha CS80. In at 13, the Mellotron. At 12, the Juno 60. At number 11, it's the Oberheim OB8. Into the top 10, at 10, the ARP 2600. At 9, it's the Virus. At 8, the Roland JV1080. In at 7, it's the Korg MS20. At 6, Roland D50. At 5, it's the love of my life, the Korg M1. At 4, it's the Yamaha DX7. Now for the top 3. At 3, the Prophet 5. At number 2, it's the ARP Odyssey. And the greatest synth of all time, in at number 1, is the Minimoog. Bob Moog. He represents everything that's good and wholesome about the world of synthesis. After all, he did invent electricity back in the 50s, and we really have to thank him for that. He also invented the synthesizer that you voted number 1 in our countdown, the Minimoog. The Minimoog was so brilliant, you could almost forgive Bob for making that awful racket on the theremin. But enough from me. Let's hear from the man himself about the greatest synthesizer of all time.
Hi, I'm Bob Moog, and I'm talking to you via sonicstate.com.
The new Moog performance synthesizers combine many of the important and basic functions of the larger Moog studio synthesizers with simplicity, convenience, and low cost. To the professional musician, Moog performance synthesizers are the long-awaited breakthrough that brings the sound of the Moog onto the live performance stage.
The Minimoog, I think without doubt, is the single most influential keyboard ever designed, obviously after the piano. You can absolutely create every different parameter about the sound and you can sculpt it entirely yourself.
For something which is a bunch of electronics, it just sounds very organic. I don't know how they managed it or why that is. And that gives you a very wide range of uses.
I think the key to the Minimoog was at the time synthesizers were huge, big modular things, and Bob just took the most popular elements from all of those modulars and laid them out in a really logical way and a simple way to address, and put it in a small box that you could take on tour.
That Moog setup is like the setup that we use from now on, that signal path, oscillator, mixer, filter, VCA, and it was uncharted territory in those days.
Nothing else will sound like it, and it's not trying to sound like anything else. It's just giving you a bunch of parameters, and it's giving you the best possible flexibility within each one.
Now, with one portable instrument, a complete palette of musical tones is available.
My hobby was building electronic musical instruments, and the theremin was the craziest thing I could build. You have to practice, and you have to have a good ear. It's not like if you had a keyboard. Besides being difficult to play, that wasn't the only appeal. The appeal was that technically it's a very interesting instrument. There's not much into it, but it does a great deal.
Changing the octave there.
When I began, nobody knew what a synthesizer was, and then the experimental composers became our clients, and then people who made commercial music for radio and television, and then the switched on albums came out, and then we were into rock and roll. Every couple of years we got to talk to a different group of musicians, hear different kinds of music being made on our stuff.
This is 3 triangle waves stacked atop each other.
We didn't think about it too much back then. In fact, we thought we'd make 100 Minimoogs, and then we'd see what happened. So every year was a surprise. And finally, I think in 1981 or 1982, the company discontinued it because they wanted to bring out the Source, which had a microprocessor control. It was a little bit more advanced, but people still preferred the Minimoog. And today the Minimoog is I think, the most popular synthesizer that Moog Music ever made. 5 years ago, I began hearing from a lot of musicians, why don't you bring back the Minimoog? When are you going to make a new version of the Minimoog? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of musicians asked us that. And after a while, I began to think, what if we did do that? And then the idea for this instrument developed, and here it is. This is the anniversary edition. It's got a blue luminescent panel, blue wheels, and a beautiful black case. It was very elegant. I think it's getting to be a mature technology. It's getting to be the point now where it's not that hard to make any sound you can imagine, either analog or digital. You can sample anything, and you have all these synthesis algorithms and all the analog circuits that have been developed over the years. You can make just about any sound you want. The most interesting thing is controlling it in new ways. I haven't seen a new controller that I feel is really exciting, but I'm sure someday, our industry will advance to where we have finely crafted controllers that are the match for the sound producing capabilities of all the electronics. I test it by fooling with it. I'm not much of a musician, but I like being with musicians. When they play it. When I start daydreaming about what I'd like to do next, it's always designing a new type of instrument rather than making music. That's how I am. That's the kind of guy I am.
Ranging from striking simulations of traditional instrumental qualities to completely new areas of musical material.
So the Minimoog, yeah, it's a hugely important instrument, and it made a massive impact. Easily as influential on contemporary music as the electric guitar.
It's not electronic, it's got a kind of soul to it that is slightly out of control.
I have a feeling for what's happening with the electricity as it goes through these parts. I don't imagine resistors being stretched out on a row like this, because that has nothing to do with the sound. What it has to do with is all these little traces on the board here that connect it together and cause the current to change as it goes from one part to the other. So I have a feeling which is very similar to how I imagine a violin maker feels when he's just getting the right amount of wood in one surface of the violin. There are a lot of people who begin to feel what the circuits do in a way that's similar to the way I feel them. Now, I have technical training, so I visualize things more in terms of voltages and currents, but you can also visualize them in terms of how the sound is changing. And I know for a fact that musicians make contact with this board inside the instrument here. Not physical contact. It's not like they have it under their armpits, but there's something going around here that connects what's going here with what's going inside here. It's not spiritual in the sense that it's religious, but it's spiritual in the sense that it uses some way of connecting what's in the things that are in the universe by ways other than directly with ours, that we can see with our senses.
And including many popular modern musical timbres that we recognize as the Moog sound.
So that's it from the top 20 greatest synths of all time ever. If you have any questions or queries, contact us here at Sonic State and we'll send you a detailed schematic, just like this one, and that should answer all of your questions. Now I'm off to make my next electro-pop hit. I'm thinking of using this sound. Number 1. You're watching sonicstate.com. Can't get that anywhere. Can't get it. It's the only copy in existence. Common, quite common. This one's like shit in the field. It's everywhere. This new program is incredible. I can play something like this. Feed it in. Comes back like this. That's exactly what I meant. I've seen the future, and it's weird. Not really.
sonicstate.com